Rockaways Productions presents The Casey Waters Show, Episode 110, God, Divide or Unify. Hello, I'm your host, Casey Waters, and today I will discuss God, Divide or Unify. This is material of my own creation. However, it's kind of an introduction to a book, which I will feature later on in this episode. The book is How to Know God by Deepak Chopra. Well, now let's continue on with God, Divide or Unify. I got Rose with me here now, and it's shedding season. It always seems like it's shedding season with Rose, and I often really scratch her like this, and see, look how much hair I could get, see? Anyway, and Rose sometimes likes to eat the plant and whatnot. She's on the edge of the screen doing so now. So, with God, divide or unify, what I'm discussing here, well, at the beginning of it, what I would like to discuss are the imaginary territories. Oh yeah, before I jump in, I would like to apologize for audio difficulty last episode, episode 109, Global Change. Anyway, hopefully the audio difficulty will be resolved this episode. Time will tell. In the imaginary territories, at least the ones I think of, well, what is it like? Well, things are quick. Like Rose is quick to bite sometimes. And you have to be quick to avoid being bitten. But anyway, so what it is things happen quickly. Things happen in unison. In the imaginary territories, they love music. Well, I guess the thought forms and energies that reside there appreciate music and choreography, dancing in perfect synchronized motion, like the giant parades in North Korea. So, the imaginary territories I'm associated with kind of emphasize those concepts. They often emphasize the concept of unity, and even with people of different imaginary territories, different thought positions, are still somehow unified, and empathy must be allowed, and their viewpoint must be understood, or at least tempted to be understood. So there's a lot going on here. But let's get on to the main part. God, divide or unify. Well, let's see. Well, let's start with God dividing. Well, what do I mean by that? Well, I guess I mean God creating. I guess, in a sense, creation is division. Why? Well, I'm going under the assumption that God himself, herself, itself resides in all of creation. The Holy Spirit dwells within us. And many cultures believe that God even inherits inanimate objects in animals, at least primitive cultures. Well, that all might be true. God might be in everything. At least that's what Edgar Casey believed. He believed that God did, in a sense, over time, in a slow process, descend through the material realms, from spirit to mankind to animal form, and then to rocks and plants and the like. And as God progressed through the lower forms, he lost touch with God. God, in a sense, lost touch with himself, came too far detached from the unity of God, and got too caught up in the ego and the existence of the self, and forgetting about the unity of God in everything, and thinking that the ego is everything. Gee, I know this all sounds familiar. I talk about it a lot. I know, but it is very important. So, God transforms from thought and energy to form, to solid reality, to diversify and experiment, and to form the universe. There might be other reasons too. God decided to transform from pure thought and energy into the material realm. This is a very interesting question. Its answers might hold a lot of answers for us as far as the nature of our own reality and the way things are. Anyway, so God decided to diversify. Why? Who knows? It could have been an accident. I am having trouble with continuity here. I apologize for this. Anyway, though, God transformed from thought to energy, from thought and energy to form, to diversify and form the universe. And there might be other reasons he did it too. We should be searching for these reasons. As I said, they might have critical meaning for us. Now, what happened with God forming the self, God forming into material reality, and which in a sense formed the self, since the Holy Spirit dwells within us, we are in a sense part of God. So, but we don't realize it. We lost our concept of unity, and we think we're just the small part of God, instead of the whole containing the all, kind of like a hologram. If you have a hologram material that when you project light through it, it creates a hologram. Even if you smash it and shine the light through a little piece of it, the whole hologram will emerge. Well, in a sense, that's how we are with God. We're just a small speck of God, but yet we could tap into the whole. We just don't do it readily, and we don't think we could do it, and it is an ambitious task, but it's definitely worth the try. So, we have these different levels of awareness, where some levels are closer and more in tune to God, and others are more in tune to the self, and the greediness of the self, and the narcissism of the self. And so with all of this, there's conflict can arise and strife. And so this goes on and on. But what we fail to realize is that with all this strife and all these polarities, all these opposing positions, we are still unified throughout all of that. And to be truly unified, we must have empathy for all those positions, claim responsibility for all the negative actions of others. Yes, we must really do this. Of course, it doesn't seem fair. It's kind of like Jesus Christ taking on the sins of the world. We are responsible for everything too. If we are united with God, well, then we are responsible like God. And so God takes responsibility for all. Of course, how did things go awry? Well, according to Edgar Casey, we just got too caught up in being in the material form for too long of a time period and got too self-absorbed. But that could be undone just through thought energy and through effort and through prayer and spiritual practice. Anyway, so we're coming back to the awkward reunification. God, divide or unify. Well, we talked enough about dividing, that is creation. Now let's talk about unifying. Well, does that mean destruction? Good question. Actually, I haven't thought about that till now. I don't have a ready answer for it. Maybe destruction, maybe not. Perhaps just have a destruction of the old order of things, but perhaps not a literal destruction. And let's just leave it at that. But we have to proceed with the awkward reunification. We have to reunify all the diverse parts of God that were broken up to form material reality and ourselves and all living creation, and all of creation must somehow come together and form God again. It might never happen. This is only in theory, kind of like the universe expanding forever and then shrinking into the big crunch. It's a possibility. Well, I think it's likely to occur, but I guess that's personal opinion. Somehow, I guess with the idea of us being resurrected to God and being united to God, and with all sentient beings obtaining enlightenment, it would seem that such a unification would occur again, and that diverse creation would reunify to form God. So thus, I think it's, well, perhaps a certainty. Perhaps I'm being over-optimistic in saying that. Anyway, you debate it. I'll tell you what it might be like. The awkward reunification. Because now we have to lose our identity because we are all one. And we have to share our ideas and feelings and everything about us, for we have no identity. What we are is what everybody else is, and vice versa. This concept is held strong in the imaginary territories, especially with people within, well, my similar thought energy group or whatever. I feel strongly unified to them, and I feel they would know what I'm talking about. as I describe what the imaginary territories are like. And that is a critical part of it, is feeling that you really are at one with other parts of the imaginary territory, which might include countless souls. You are unified with them, and you give up all your intimate secrets, feelings, and ideas in exchange for this great unity. And you can feel it. You betcha. It feels exhilarating and wonderful. I felt it many times myself. Anyway, let's get back to more qualities of this awkward reunification of God. God going from material back to thought and energy form. When we all become enlightened, okay, we lose the identity, we lose our identity, we resolve our conflicts. All conflicts that must be resolved. All of them. Because we are responsible for all of them. Because we are unified with everybody. It's very awkward and difficult. However, in theory, it gets easier as you get, quote, closer. At least I would think that. Because you would feel God's empathy and love. And all this awkward stuff would become easier. Even if it's against your character. You just gotta try and have faith. Anyway, so you're responsible for all others and all their actions, even if they're the exact opposite of what you think. You have to have empathy for them. And you have to share your ideas and feelings. Because you own nothing. All your possessions are gone. And you are nothing. Then, like some inverted fraction, like 1 over infinity, which is 0, is inverted to become infinity. Then you become everything, for you are one with the inverse. I guess is how you would look at it mathematically. Yourself is 1 over infinity, and God is infinity over 1. But it is different ways of looking at the same thing. We must try to understand this. And then off we go into the imaginary territories again. Speeding along. Everything happens fast, or a lot of times it does. Perhaps with long waits in between. But when it's time for action, it really is. Everything must be done quickly and perfectly. Sure. And synchronized and so on and so on. With strong feeling and empathy. And remembering we are one. We are part of all. Now, it is time for How to Know God by Deepak Chopra. Now, it is time for How to Know God, the Soul's Journey into the Mystery of Mysteries by Deepak Chopra. Let's go to page 1, towards the bottom. Everything that we experience as material reality is born in an invisible realm beyond space and time, a realm revealed by science to consist of energy and information. Now, let's go to page 2. About halfway down. Our whole notion of reality has actually been topsy-turvy. Instead of God being a vast, imaginary projection, he turns out to be the only thing that is real. And the whole universe, despite its immensity and solidity, is a projection of God's nature. Those astonishing events we call miracles give us clues to the workings of this ineffable intelligence. Now, let's go to page 14. So, to find a window to God, you have to realize that your brain is layered into regions that are ruled by different impulses. The new kingdoms are full of higher thought, poetry, and love, like the New Testament. The old kingdoms are more primordial, like parts of the Old Testament. They are ruled by raw emotion, instinct, power, and survival. Later on down the page, we evolved to find God. That is what the lightning storm of the brain's endless activity is all about. God for us is not a choice, but a necessity. Now, let's go to page 16. God is another name for infinite intelligence. To achieve anything in life, a piece of this intelligence must be contacted and used. In other words, God is always there for you. The 7 responses of the human brain are avenues to attain some aspect of God. Each level of fulfillment proves God's reality at that level. Level 1, fight or flight response. You fulfill your life through family, community, a sense of belonging, and material comforts. Level 2, reactive response. You fulfill your life through success, power, influence, status, and other ego satisfactions. Level 3, restful awareness response. You fulfill your life through peace, centeredness, self-acceptance, and inner silence. Level 4, intuitive response. You fulfill your life through insight, empathy, tolerance, and forgiveness. Level 5, creative response. You fulfill your life through inspiration, expanded creativity in art or science, and unlimited discovery. Level 6, visionary response. You fulfill your life through reverence, compassion, devoted service, and universal love. Level 7, sacred response. You fulfill your life through wholeness and unity with the divine. Now let's go to page 17. A striking example that there is a reachable place beyond material reality is prayer. Beginning more than 20 years ago, researchers devised experiments to try to verify whether prayer had any efficacy. Seriously ill patients in hospitals were divided into groups, some being prayed for, while others were not. In all cases, best medical care was still given, yet it became evident that the prayed for group seemed to recover better. This result was all the more astonishing when it was discovered that the person doing the praying didn't have to know the patient personally, or even know their names. But only in 1998 did a Duke University team verify to all skeptics that prayer indeed has such power. The researchers took into account all manner of variables, including heart rate, blood pressure, and clinical outcomes. 150 patients who had undergone invasive cardiac procedures were studied, but none of them knew that they were being prayed for. 7 religious groups around the world were asked to pray. These included Buddhists in Nepal, Carmelite nuns in Baltimore, and Virtual Jerusalem, an organization that grants email requests for prayers to be written down and inserted into the Wailing Wall. Researchers found that surgical patients' recovery could be from 50 to 100% better if someone prayed for them. Now, let's go to page 29 of How to Know God by Deepak Chopra. Towards the bottom of the page, at the quantum level, nothing of the material world is left intact. It is strange enough to hold up your hand and realize that it is actually, at a deeper level, invisible vibrations taking place in a void. Even at the atomic level, all objects are revealed as 99.9999% empty space. On its own scale, the distance between a whirling electron and the nucleus it revolves around is wider than the distance between the Earth and the Sun. But you could never capture that electron anyway, since it too breaks down into energy vibrations that wink in and out of existence millions of times per second. Therefore, the whole universe is a quantum mirage, winking in and out of existence millions of times per second. At that quantum level, the whole cosmos is like a blinking light. There are no stars or galaxies, only vibrating energy fields that our senses are too dull and slow to pick up given the incredible speed at which light and electricity move. In the animal kingdom, some nervous systems are much faster than ours and others much slower. A snail's neurons picks up signals from the outside world so slowly, for example, that events any faster than 3 seconds would not be perceived. In other words, if a snail was looking at an apple and I quickly reached in and snatched it away, this snail would not be able to detect my hand. It would see the apple disappear before its very eyes. In the same way, quantum flashes are millions of times too rapid for us to register, so our brains play a trick on us by seeing solid objects that are continuous in time and space, the same way that a movie seems continuous. A movie consists of 24 still pictures flashing by per second, with 24 gaps of blackness as each frame is taken away and a new one put in its place. But our brains cannot perceive 48 stop-motion events in 1 second. The illusion of the movie is created. Now speed this up by many powers of 10, and you get the trick of the movie we call life. You and I exist as flashing. Casey Waters Show. Producer, Casey Waters. Graphic editing, Judson Laird. Please note our new email address, CaseyWaters2 @CaseyWaters.com.